everybody to this regular city council meeting for Monday, June 2, 2025. Maria, would you call the roll?
Fritz,
Here.
Lowe,
Here.
McLaughlin,
Here.
Manetza.
Here. Our invocation this evening is by Reverend Dr. Jared C. Kramer. Please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
The Lord be with you. Let us pray. O God of our many understandings, the God whom many of us in this room know as Jesus Christ, but whom many of us know by other names, we ask that you will send your grace down upon this meeting. We give you thanks at the beginning of Pride Month for all of your children, particularly those who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, aromantic, asexual, or any other variety of gender identity or sexual orientation. We repent of the ways that we, as citizens of our country, have demeaned, discriminated against, or treated our fellow humans poorly. We ask that you will move within us, that during this month, the citizens of Grand Haven and our elected leadership can demonstrate that repentance by a month full of advocacy, celebration, and joy. We give you thanks for this time to be together, and we ask that you will continue to prod us to move forward in the interest of diversity, equity, inclusion, until every person knows that they are deeply, deeply valued, and every person in our community is treated with the respect and inherent dignity they deserve. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This evening we have a group of reappointments to boards and commissions. Maria, would you read those?
Item A, Ben Enninga to the Airport Board with a term ending of June 30th, 2030. Dennis Swartout to the Airport Board with a term ending June 30, 2030. Steve Harvey to the Audit Review Committee with a term ending June 30, 2029. Craig Zisk to the Board of Review with a term ending June 30, 2028. Michael Port to the Duncan Park Commission with a term ending June 30, 2030. Steffi Thayer to the Human Relations Commission with a term ending June 30, 2026. John Steinbach, Main Street Downtown Development Authority with a term ending June 30, 2029. Nikki Bonschik to the Musical Fountain Committee with a term ending June 30, 2029. Jim DeVries to the Parks and Recreation Board with a term ending of June 30, 2030. Daniel Borchers to the Planning Commission with a term ending June 30, 2028. Amy Kozanecki to the Planning Commission with a term ending June 30, 2028. Carrie Bridges to the Zoning Board of Appeals with a term ending June 30, 2028. And Paul Shibley to the Zoning Board of Appeals with a term ending June 30, 2028.
Can I get a motion to reappoint?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowe. Any questions or comments on any of these reappointments? If not, would you please call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. There are no new appointments this go around. There will be a few in our next meeting. At this point, we are to the approval of the consent and regular agendas. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowe. Any comments, concerns, or things we would like to rearrange on our agenda? If not, would you please call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. All right, well, we did have a work session this evening, but it was a field trip for us, so there's no continuation of the work session needed. This point brings us to our first call to the audience. At this time, members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address. Will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration, but will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to call may dial 616-935-3203. And I would point out also that we do have a public hearing this evening on the item of the proposed hotel for downtown. So if your comments are geared toward that hotel proposal, you might want to wait until the public hearing. But in the meantime, at this point, you may address council on any item you wish.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is John Simeon, and I'm proud to serve as co-chair of the Grand Haven Pride Festival. On June 14th, we'll celebrate our third annual Pride Festival, a celebration of inclusion, visibility, and unity of our LGBTQ+ community, their families, friends, and allies. Last year's Falcon Festival welcomed hundreds of attendees to our waterfront and businesses until it rained. It was a day of joy, safety, and connection, grounded in the values. Excuse me, I just had cataract surgery, so. Grounded in the values that make Grand Haven a truly special place: respect, kindness, and community spirit. We are building a tradition, one that contributes to the special and economic viability of our city. Pride is not just a festival, it is a public expression of belonging. And in Grand Haven, everyone should feel they belong. We appreciate the support that the partnership that we've received from you in the past. As we continue to grow, we look forward to working together to make this year's Pride Festival another success for Grand Haven. I am predicting that we're going to have partly cloudy and 80-degree weather this year. I mean, I can guess just as well as the TV weatherman. Thank you for your support and your time and continued support.
Thank you, John.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight and for your continued support of the Grand Haven Pride Festival. My name is Amy Verway. My wife, Brooke DeCoo, and I have the privilege of being the co-chairs of Grand Haven Pride Board of Directors this year. As members of the LGBTQ+ community ourselves, we can strongly say your leadership here sends a powerful message that every person in this community belongs. We appreciate this more than ever. I'm also a mental health therapist and own a private practice in West Michigan, so I have the unique privilege of witnessing how support like this can really, truly impact lives firsthand. I work with children, teens, and adults, most of whom are part of the LGBTQ+ community, and I can tell you with utmost certainty, support like this makes a difference. I see young people walk into my office carrying fear, shame, isolation, self-hatred, and they walk out with hope because of the support they receive, especially when they know that their community stands with them and beside them. When families see their town fly a rainbow flag, when kids see a pride banner or a sticker in a window, when individuals feel safe enough to be fully themselves, that is not just symbolic. That's positive mental health in action, and that is true community. This support doesn't just help us celebrate, this support actively saves lives. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you for making space for joy and visibility. Thank you for showing us that we matter. And that you're proud of us.
Thank you, Amy.
Good evening, I'm Melanie Swiftney, 17035 Timber Dunes Drive in Grand Haven. I think I know all of you up there, so it's nice to see you from this side of the microphone. I am on the board for Grand Haven Pride, and I'm also the secretary of the festival committee, and I am going to tell you a little bit about what we have planned next week, Saturday. Everything will kick off, the festival will start at noon, but we will have a community pride worship service starting at 10 o'clock until 11:15. From 12 till 12:30, we'll have the kickoff where certain dignitaries and other members of the board will speak. The drag show will start from 12:30 featuring Veronica Scott and will last until 2:30. We will have a pride photo booth from 1 till 4. And then different acts that we'll have. At 3 o'clock we'll have Alice King. At 4:30, Deadbeat Dad, formerly Lipstick Jody, and then from 6 till 9, we will have Dank Hill, local favorite band, playing all the 90s and 2000s hits. And we'll also have DJ Digimark playing in between each of those sets to keep things going. In addition to the activities on the main stage, we will have a vendor market from 12 till 5. We will have kids' activities from 12 till 5, including a special visit from the Blandford Nature Center, and they will have animals for people to see and get to learn a little bit more about. We'll have food trucks from 12 till 8, drag bingo from 3 till 4:30 in a special tent, and then we'll have an artist poetry series also in that same tent from 5 till 6. There will be food and beverage with the food trucks and the bar, and we invite everyone to come and have a wonderful day with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'll be brief. My name's Steve Mack. I couldn't hear a lot of what you said, so when is the time that is best to address the Marriott and the Hilton and those proposals?
There will be a public hearing later in the meeting. When it gets to the time for the public hearing, we'll announce that. It'll be after our consent agenda and after our presentation, so.
Okay, so it is tonight then?
Yeah, there'll be a public hearing tonight on that.
Okay.
If you have comments, then that's probably the best time to do that.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Kara Schoenveld. I'm at 1536 Beech Tree Commons. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, so let's see what comes out of my mouth. I grew up in Grand Haven and I moved away when I was 18, 19 and lived in California for 14 years. And I learned of my queerness when I was there. And it was in a very liberal, very open, very, very diverse place that I got to learn about myself and learn about the queer community, and I'm so fortunate in that. So when we decided to move back here, I was a little nervous. I didn't know what it was gonna be like. I knew that Grand Haven, at least the one that I left, was pretty homogenous in terms of thinking, in terms of makeup. And maybe that's true still in a lot of ways, but I think we are changing. I know that change and growth is not a linear process. But last week I got to spend a week with about 1,000 queer people in Mexico on a vacation. And I found myself feeling so proud to share about our little town here in conservative West Michigan. And I found that people around me were, you could see the wheels turning, that like, hey, I'm from a small town too. Maybe we could do this too. And so I just want to say thank you for creating this space year after year and for allowing it to happen. And for standing against the people who aren't ready for that change, who don't understand, who have fear for whatever reason. I know that we're doing such good work, and Amy is absolutely correct. This is not just a party, it's not just to look around and say we're doing a good job. We are saving lives. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Phil Leach. I'm from the other side of the river at Spring Lake. Thank you for the opportunity to talk with you tonight. And number one, I want to support all of you who just previously spoke.
Thank you.
I have a few questions about the May 2025 Tribune article regarding the 189 unit on the former Dayton property in the 500 block on Robbins Road. I did a little homework, and correct me if I'm wrong. The proposed project will include 108 flats, which I presume is the English version of apartments, 44 townhouses, which I believe are residential, 8 row houses, which are residential, and of course 29 single-family homes, which are residential. It's 189 total, but then there was also 11 affordable housing, so it's a total of 200 units. Affordable housing is defined as 80% of the median income in a given area. In 2023, the median income in Ottawa County was $87,144. 80% of that equals $69,715. if my calculations are correct, 11 units out of 200 units are being worked on, which means that 5.5% of the total units are considered, quote, affordable housing. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Phil.
Jared Kramer. I live at 11571 Oak Grove Road in Grand Haven, and I'm also the priest across the street. There's a lot of memes and things on the internet that go around every year when Pride Month rolls around. Not all of them pleasant, of course, but there's one that always gets me that I always see posted. I've already seen it posted a few times in the past couple of days, and that's pride is important because tonight there's someone out there who thinks they're better off dead than being gay or trans. And so I want to reiterate what my colleague said, how grateful we are that the city of Grand Haven has supported this since the very beginning. 5 years ago, when my church just did a little worship service, I thought it was going to be a little worship service. 3 years ago, when we came for the first festival, every single time the leadership of the city has stood up with us and unequivocally said, we welcome everyone in Grand Haven, and we don't just do that with our words, but we do that with our actions. Every single time people from the city governance have shown up just at our opening ceremony to be publicly supportive of who we are and what we're trying to do. And you've done that in the face of some opposition that at times has been kind of unpleasant, but you've been there. And I hope you know how grateful the people who've spoken are, how grateful I am as someone who grew up in Grand Haven, for what our city's becoming and the leadership each of you are exhibiting in making that happen. You are helping to save lives. I also hope that on Saturday you'll come and have a lot of fun with us and that you will feel the love we have for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to address council at this time?
Good evening, Jim Hagan, 400 Lake. I'd like to talk about the South Village project a little bit more. Following last council meeting, I did a little bit of research and I called up Eagles Wetlands Map Viewer, and they have all the wetlands identified. And I don't know if any of you looked at the link that I sent out, but when you look at Grand Haven, there's actually very, very few that are identified. And most of them are down at the river, you know, where we normally say, oh yeah, that's a wetland. Well, it just happens in back of Dake, and that SJS, where's the JSJ? Property is identified, and the map legend actually reads Part 303, Final Wetlands Inventory. So when you click it off, that's one of the wetlands that shows up. So I'm not exactly sure. You know, we talk about sensitive, but it's identified as a wetlands on Eagles Wetlands Inventory, and this is developed based on actually two mapping systems. One is the National Wetlands Inventory, and the other is the Michigan. So it meets both those criteria. There is a disclaimer that says that Eagle has to get involved in if there's like a judicial type of determination that has to be made. But I'm just really surprised that when we clearly have a wetlands identified on mapping by Eagle, that all of a sudden we have this project that seems to just be almost barreling ahead. I know you guys are only doing zoning, but I really think we need to really look at the research on these things before we start, you know, going full speed ahead on them. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Who else would like to address council at this time? Seeing none, I'll close this public input part. Now we have a presentation, a proclamation recognizing the month of June 2025 as Pride Month. Who is reading that to us?
I am.
Steve.
Alright, so the City of Grand Haven Proclamation of Pride Month. Whereas, City of Grand Haven, Michigan City Council recognizes and proclaims the month of June 2025 as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer Pride Month throughout the City of Grand Haven. And whereas, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, LGBTQ individuals have had an immeasurable impact on the culture, civic, and economic successes of our country. And whereas the City of Grand Haven is committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equality for LGBTQ people in our diverse community. And whereas, while society at large increasingly supports LGBTQ equality, it's essential to acknowledge that the need for education and awareness remains vital to end discrimination and prejudice. And whereas, this nation was founded on the principle that every individual has infinite dignity and worth, and the City Council calls upon the people of this municipality to embrace this principle and work to eliminate prejudice everywhere it exists. Whereas, celebrating Pride Month influences awareness and provides support and advocacy for Grand Haven's LGBTQ community, and is an opportunity to take action and engage in dialogue to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, and advance equal rights. Now, there it be resolved that the Grand Haven City Council hereby proclaims the month of June 2025 as Pride Month in support of the LGBTQ community, and directs that the word pride be placed on the city welcome sign at Washington Avenue and 5th Street as a visual representation of the city's support.
Thank you, Steve. And for the record, would you state your name?
Steve Tremolin, 1603 Grant.
Okay, and you are a member, and Steve is a member of our Human Relations Commission, and the language of this proclamation was generated by our Human Relations Commission, as it is each year. Thank you for that. Okay, that brings us to our consent agenda. At the end of the consent agenda, we'll be formally adopting the proclamation. Maria, would you please read the consent agenda?
Just a second.
Let's wait about a minute here. Okay. Lost half our audience.
Item A, approve the special work session and regular council meeting minutes for May 19, 2025. Item B, approve the bills memo in the amount of $408,901.16. Item C, approve a resolution for a professional services proposal from Avonmarsh Bice for the Grand Haven Entrance Light Historic Interpretation Development Project in the amount of $17,000 with costs being reimbursed by the Grand Haven Lighthouse Conservancy. Item D, approve a social district permit application from British Landing Enterprises, Inc., located at 100 Washington Avenue, Grand Haven, Michigan 49417, contiguous to the common area designated by the Grand Haven City Council and pursuant to MCL 436.1551 for consideration for approval by the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. Item E, approve a social district permit application from 12 Corners Vineyards LLC located at 41 Washington Avenue, Suite 144, Grand Haven, Michigan 49417, contiguous to the common area designated by the Grand Haven City Council and pursuant to MCL 436.1551 for consideration for approval by the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. Item F, approve a resolution to participate in the Ottawa County Tax Foreclosure Avoidance Payment Reduction Program, offered and administered by Ottawa County to assist City of Grand Haven qualifying delinquent taxpayers in fulfilling property tax obligations. Item G, approve a resolution to award the Grand Haven Inner Lighthouse Project to Pushout Builders of Grand Haven, Michigan in the not to exceed amount of $130,060 with costs being reimbursed by the Grand Haven Lighthouse Conservancy. And item H, approve a resolution recognizing and proclaiming the month of June 2025 as Pride Month.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowe. Any questions or comments on any of these items? If not, would you please call the roll.
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vanessa.
Yes. So we have one item of unfinished business. Marie, would you read that?
Consideration by City Council of a final resolution to approve a zoning change request from TI Transitional Industrial District to PD Planned Development District and associated preliminary development plan for South Village PD located on what is commonly referred to as the Dake property at 700 and 724 Robbins Road, parcels number 70-03-33-100-072 and 70-03-33-100-073.
Can I get a motion?
So moved. In second.
Motion by McLaughlin, second by Fritz. This is the second reading as required by the charter of a zoning ordinance amendment. Let's see, Brian, has anything changed or are there any other considerations since our first reading?
Good evening, Brian Urquhart, City Planner. No, nothing has changed since our last reading 2 weeks ago.
Questions or comments? I would like to point out that one of the contingencies on the zoning approval and on the preliminary plan as approved by the Plan Commission is that Eagle will take the lead on anything built in the wetlands areas as designated by Eagle. They can do this in a variety of ways. They can do it as define exactly where you can build, if you need to mitigate that or replace that wetland somewhere else. They have some different tools that could be used. I assume that that's still the case. So the concerns about the wetland area are being addressed in a manner.
Yep, that's correct. There's, as you can see in the motion from recommendation from Planning Commission, there's a list of conditions. We'll have to satisfy those conditions before the final development plan will come forward. So we look forward to seeing the results of some of those more prescriptive items such as the Eagle permit request and also the traffic impact study. So.
And the traffic study will be something that will be dealt with in the final development plan, which is at the Planning Commission level.
Correct.
All right. Any comments, questions, anyone? Okay, would you please call the roll?
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Vanessa.
Yes. All right, that brings us to a public hearing. We are going to open a public hearing regarding the introductory resolution to approve the zoning change request from CBE Central Business District to Planned Development District and associated preliminary plan for a hotel at 233 Washington Avenue, parcel 70-03-2432-017. Before we go into the public hearing, Brian, would you like to introduce this case to us?
Be happy to. So, this is a request on behalf of BDR, who owns the property at 233 Washington, to rezone the property from Central Business District to Planned Development, with a preliminary development plan for a 128-room hotel at the corner lot there at Washington and 3rd. A planned development is a tool that is found within many ordinances, and we've done it in the city before. We just approved one just a second ago. This is the 4th step in the plan development process. The first is a work session with our internal review team to see if there's any major hurdles, and then there's a work session in step 2 to go forward with that. That would be at our Planning Commission. And then step 3, which was held a public hearing at our May Planning Commission meeting, and kind of work the things out. And then because it is a rezoning, it's an ordinance change, it has to come back before City Council. And so the intent of this is to provide a 5-story, 128-room residence inn by Marriott to provide high-quality extended stay accommodations, support tourism, provide economic growth, and promote the downtown vision plan, according to the applicant. Our central business district allows hotels by special land use already. This is a large parcel with respect to the other parcels that are in the central business district. A lot of times they're very small, there's not much space available, but with this, it's about 1.41 acres. And so when they decided to come forward, they looked at the site and figured, okay, we're gonna take a look at the structure, and the plan now is to remove the structure and construct a 5-story hotel. And the reason why I ask to go through plan development is because sometimes when you can't fit prescriptive zoning in under the underlying ordinance, plan development gives you a little bit of flexibility. So that's why we're here, is because of mainly the 5 stories, which does have a predominant building height of 55 feet with a few peaks that would approach 67 feet. And then in addition, traditional zoning would require 1 space, parking space per room for hotel. And there's 128 spaces. They're proposing with their site plan 89 on-site spaces. As you can see in the recommendation from the Planning Commission, opportunity for a different parking alternative. That was a recommendation for moving forward. The zoning ordinance itself, under its current zoning, allows for a departure for parking for non-residential uses in the zoning district up to 50% if it's utilized. So you gotta get a little somewhat creative when you have such limited space, but with such an impactful development. So with that being said, those are the main reasons. The hotel itself largely will be composed of exterior materials that look similar to what we have already as required exterior cladding materials in our downtown district. Brick facing materials, and then there's stone on all sides, and then clear glass frontage with a primary entrance off of Washington, with a traffic drop off of the rear part of the hotel that comes off of Columbus. And so they'll have curb cuts there, so all the parking will be in the back, and then as you look at the renderings, you'll see the hotel that has frontage off 3rd and Washington. It is important to note that there's an area that's commonly referred to as Sherwood Forest that is private property, but one of the conditions of approval is that would be some of the public benefit that would remain unbuilt for the perpetuity of this planned development, and that would be open to the public. I think that's a very important point, is that you don't have a complete wall shield off of that. That doesn't take the whole block, and be able to have a pedestrian pathway to get through that block and be able to utilize that for public space. Planning Commission had a public hearing on May 13th. There's a lot of collection of public comments. A lot of concerns were around traffic, parking, but a lot were also in favor of the hotel and the potential economic impact that this could show on the city of Grand Haven. It was largely in favor, and it was a 7-0 unanimous vote from the Planning Commission. So moving forward, they moved that. There was a correspondence for this public hearing that you may have received from the Chamber of Commerce. That was a letter of support, and there were a few comments that you saw probably like this today. You may have seen some comments. A lot of it had concern, again, with the parking and then the preservation of the historic or perceived historic portion of the bank building there that was at 229 Washington, or that was its former address. The main thing to look at is when you look at these developments, you're going to have an impact on a community. You're going to have large-scale development. You're going to see an impact like this. However, you're going to have issues that come with parking anytime in downtown. What we did in the motion is that this conforms to our plans that we have adopted. We went through the process of a future land use plan and the master plan. This conforms to that. But there's a DDA master plan. We talk about hospitality, providing residential style lodging accommodations to increase visitor demand. This supports that our motion. And then also we have an economic development strategy that specifically states that hospitality and tourism is an important part of the local economy. structured to offer visitors year-round memorable and enjoyable experiences while balancing the interests of local residents and other key sectors of the economy. So when we looked at this, we didn't quite, there's the economic factor, there's other factors. Tonight we're looking at specifically, is this the type of use we want at that property, hence the rezoning, and is this largely what the building makeup will be? The final development plan will come with all those heavy level details of what exactly it's going to look like, all the conditions of approval, things of that nature. But what we're asking tonight, at least introducing tonight, is are we okay? Are we ready to move forward with rezoning this property and have a hotel in the first block or first 3 blocks of downtown at that location? So again, Planning Commission was very, very enthusiastic about this 7-0 vote, unanimous. We felt that it met all the visions that we found in our master plan, DDA plan, and also our economic development strategy. And if there's any other questions about the layout and things like that, I'm sure the developer may be willing to express that, but as what you've seen in the packet is the most current reiterated version. And when it does, like I said, when it does come to final development plan, there could be some minor modifications, but largely that is what we would expect to be presented for the final plan.
Okay, Brian, and the applicants here would like to make a brief statement?
Yep, there you go.
Good evening, I'm Peter Bukema. I'm part of the development team. I'm with 6PM Hospitality Partners. We're a hospitality development and management firm based in Zeeland, Michigan. Born and raised in Grand Rapids, in the Grand Rapids area. I grew up behind the front desk of my parents' first motel up in northern Michigan, which is a seasonal property. Ultimately graduated from Rockford High School, so I'm a local guy. I moved to Holland to work for my family's hospitality company right out of high school. So I've been out in Holland since 2000 and have lived out there. I have 4 kids at Zeeland East High School. So this area, this community, this county has been special to me my whole life. With me tonight is 2 of my colleagues, Tom and Chris. Both are Ottawa County residents, and we're proud to continue to grow our organization and also the communities that we serve, we live, and enjoy. So, with that said, this is a project that Ms. Dreinfeld, the president and CEO of BDR, and I have been talking about for many, many years. It's kind of ebbed and flowed with the economy over the years. Tom and I constructed the Courtyard Marriott downtown Holland. It opened in 2016. Dana had the privilege of working at the city of Holland back in those days, so we crossed paths a few times there. And Tom and I have since built properties, most recently the Hampton Inn and Suites on First Street Beach in Manistee, and then also opened the brand new, newly remodeled Doubletree downtown Battle Creek. And so we take a lot of pride in growing and developing within West Michigan, and have really, found this to be home and are appreciative of that. So, a few of the things Brian hit on earlier was the parking. We've been trying to be unique in ways to solve the parking. The parking is a huge challenge. It seems like with every project, and we've come up with a concept to incorporate some of the parking on maybe 3rd Street and a little bit on Washington for the overflow. This is a rare occasion during the summer that would happen. The property will run in the low 60% occupancy year round, so that's an average. So through the winter months, it'd be very rare to have somebody actually parking on street. In the summer, obviously, it's gonna be a challenge. We'll continue to work with our neighbors to seek out other arrangements to help alleviate that. But Marriott requires that we have parking within a visible site of the property. I guess just put yourself in the shoes of the guest that schlepping a bag, 2 blocks through downtown in the middle of winter wouldn't be the most pleasant experience. So, we've worked a lot with the greater community throughout the design of the project, and tried to do a lot of what we did in downtown Holland and be very intentional and try to fit the look and feel of downtown Grand Haven so it felt as part of the community. That the the prototype residence inn product just would not fit. It would be a fish out of water in downtown Grand Haven. And so we've worked diligently with Marriott so far on that. The one thing you'll notice too since the last plan is a little bit of that darker gray shading. There's a lot more elevation change from Washington to Columbus than meets the eye. And so that's created a little bit of a design challenge, but we're working through all of that as well. So I think there was a couple of comments around softening up the building, so we were able to pull the building back off from Washington a few feet to allow for some softening in green space. So we're really working on exactly what that is. That's a rather new development. What else did I miss?
You know, when it comes to parking, Pete mentioned that the hotel runs at about 60% occupancy annually. And so we've graphed that out, and with the 89 spots on site, that covers about 9 months of the year. And then even in the summer, it's not sold out every night. So, but we are trying to get creative with the parking. We've talked to Brian, we've talked to the neighbors. So things like the possibility of using city parking at night, because our guests show up later in the day and leave earlier in the morning, which is pretty much the opposite of the parking that's required in downtown. Most of the stores open early in the morning and they're closed at night, which is just the opposite.
Same with the offices.
So, and same with the office. So some shared parking, if you will, that would create space for those extra guests at night. Howland changed their ordinance a while back to allow on-street parking in the summertime. You know, it's the on-street parking in the winter is a snow plowing issue, so, but we don't have an issue in the winter, it'd just be in the summer. So if we could, you know, ID card vehicles that are from the hotel that are parked in those spaces adjacent to the hotel overnight, something of that nature would be a way to get us to where we need to be with the toll parking.
Any other questions for us out of the gate?
Well, at this point in time, we're in a public hearing, so I'm gonna, at this point, I will invite members of the public to come forth and make comments to city council. Thank you. Who would like to address council?
Good evening again, Jim Hagan, 400 Lake. I haven't been able to attend all of the hearings, but I know 223 LLC, who owns the parcel, also owns two parcels directly across from Columbus. Not directly, but just off by one parcel. So, you know, that's where the remote was for the bank when we used to have that for banking, and it's the parcel next to it, and their parcel's number 100-429-013 and 211-429-014. So I'm curious as to what discussions have taken place about using those parking, those areas. They're directly visible from the hotel, so they follow the Marriott rules. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Larry Hall. I live at 300 Washington, Unit 18. I've expressed my opinion both in writing and verbally to the City Planning Commission last month, and sent an email to you as well. But wanted to express my opinion tonight verbally, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that. So thank you for hearing me. I'm a new downtown resident, so I would be a direct neighbor of this hotel. I'm against this project as presently planned. I don't think that this project maintains the necessary balance between economics and quality of life. I moved to Grand Haven from Grand Rapids recently, choosing to locate downtown, both because of the proximity to the natural beauty of the shoreline and also the walkability of a charming small town. Also, after hearing some of the presentations tonight, I'm very happy and heartened to hear what's happening here as well, and the acceptance of all of the community members, so I really appreciate that. Anyway, so while charm is a very subjective term, I'm using it here to include qualities like small, unique shops and businesses that are generally locally owned. I would also include lack of over-congested streets and reasonably available parking and architectural qualities that fit the surroundings. And I do appreciate the attempts that were discussed tonight about the appearance of the property that's planned. I'm not against a hotel in downtown Grand Haven, just one of this size and type. It's a national chain, and could be likened to putting a Home Depot downtown instead of a local hardware. I think both of those have their place in the community. I shop at Home Depot. I think this hotel fits well in a different area of the community, but not downtown. I could foresee something half its size with local character, could have a beautiful lobby, amenable to viewing by local foot traffic, some conference facilities that might draw businesses to the area in the off-season, with enough charm to attract perhaps weekend winter visitors. In order to maintain the charm of what Grand Haven offers, I think we need to be careful about what's planned. I'm concerned that actually I attended the prior meeting, and I felt like actually the majority of the public that was up speaking about it was against it, and yet it was a unanimous vote of the commission approving it. So I ask that this issue be given the consideration and overall planning that it deserves as you attempt to balance economic growth and quality of life and maintenance of what makes Grand Haven a special place to live and encourages people to actually pick up roots and move here like myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Steve, this is the time.
So I'm a little slow on the uptake on all of this, unfortunately. I'm just now becoming aware of it. My bad, I guess. My name's Steve Mack. I live downtown. I am against it. I'm not really good at sugarcoating things, so I'll just cut right to it. If you want to put a national chain in, it should be on 31 or somewhere south or north of town. It doesn't need to be downtown. To me, it's just outrageous, honestly. And I don't know why it has to be 5 stories. If it has to be 5 stories, why don't we make the first floor parking, indoor parking for the Marriott? Then they would have their parking issue solved. Not against the Marriott like the last gentleman said, but I am against it downtown. And as far as the comment that the people that are staying there are coming late and leaving early, well, as I understand it, and I could be wrong, it's a residence inn, which means they can be there for approximately a week at a time. So they're not coming late and leaving early. They're coming there for a week on vacation. So that's really not fair to say that. I prefer local ownership to the stuff downtown. Again, put the commercial stuff on the highway. As far as Holland goes and the successes they had there, God bless them. I don't personally stop in Holland. I drive through it when I go to Saugatuck or back to Grand Haven because I don't like Holland because of that. It's just too commercial. It's just too busy, too commercial. And again, I'm sorry that I don't sugarcoat this stuff. I think we need to spend some time in this town looking at road engineers to fix the problems in the traffic jams because there's no shortage of tourists in this town. We don't need to solicit or attract more tourists. Great that they come. I came here as one. I now live here. But we need to address the traffic in this town. And that's not even just during, Coast Guard Week or any of that. You can't even now get around starting at approximately 2:30 to 3 o'clock for a couple hours. And there's so many things they could do even with just 31 to just alleviate it, get rid of some of those extra turns that they don't need, etc. But it's above my pay grade. I just appreciated this time to start looking at some of the ways to move the traffic through here better. And it's not, hopefully, and I haven't heard any of you out there say anything, but it's not about just the tax revenues for this town. It's about and the gentleman used charm. It's about the charm of this town. It's about people wanting to be here, not always about tax revenues. And I don't know, I guess I've said my piece. I mean, I am really even just sorry to even hear that they're thinking about this. Again, put it on 31, put it up with the big ones, but that's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roger Bergman, 214 Washington Avenue. A resident of Grand Haven for many, many years, downtown for 27 years. I'll be looking at this building across the street when it's built. And you know what? I can hardly wait for it to be built. We have waited for many years for the bank to do something, Fifth Third, when they were there, when they bought out Old Kent, and continued to bring some of the offices to some of their other buildings. And so in a process of many years, they were emptying that building until they finally got down to only a few people in that building. And then we waited for many years before there was a few more people that came into that building even after Fifth Third left. And today there's only, I don't know how many people are in that building, but not many. So as a real benefit to the downtown, currently that building is not a real benefit to the downtown. I am looking forward to a hotel coming downtown because I care about the heart of our community. The heart of our community is the downtown. And a downtown that's alive and vibrant is what makes it part of the heart. And this evolves not just in the downtown, but also beyond the downtown. It involves everyone's property values in your town. You guys, your property values would diminish if we didn't have a vibrant downtown. I'm all in favor of making the downtown more vibrant. But at the same time, if there's an ability for the contractor to find a way to incorporate some of what's there now, pillars perhaps, or something else from the building, from the old bank building, if there's a way that you can do that, you need to consider doing that. Because I think that's an important part. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be talking.
No, you're talking to us.
Okay, all right. Did you hear what I said?
I did.
Okay. Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that everyone realizes also that people talk about parking. We've, like I said, we've lived downtown. Karen and I have lived downtown for 27 years. We've never not found a parking place. Never. We've always found a place. We might have to walk a ways. That's the problem. People don't like to walk or look for a parking spot. But you can find parking downtown. You need to look for it. You can find it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Wally Ewing, and that's Jane Ewing that's handing out something to you. We live at 29 Sherman Avenue in Grand Haven. My concern is very specific. It's about this building that's pictured here at 223 Washington. It is, I think, an architectural icon, and I also believe strongly that it's an historic icon. Give you a little history. That building, the picture you're looking at, was taken in 1930. And by then, that building already was 19 years old. It opened up in 1911. And it was the Grand Haven State Bank, which was started in 1902 in a building right across the street at 218. And if you look closely at those cream entryway at 218, you'll see two columns with Ionic tops that are echoed in the building that they built in 1911. The Grand Haven State Bank is important historically because it merged with the National Bank in 1910 of Grand Haven, and National Bank was started by the William Ferry and Son in 1855. So it goes back a long way. And it seems to me it would be a shame first to lose that architectural feature in downtown, which I think is so attractive and important, but also the history of Grand Haven State Bank would be diminished. I hope we can find something to do, either it'd be wonderful to be incorporated in the Marriott if that plan is approved and goes through, or perhaps in some other building downtown, for instance, the former Grand Haven Jewelry store might be a place for it. And I implore the council to consider that and to find a way to save that architectural feature at 223 Washington. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline.
Good evening, Sharon Beam, 15898 Ridgefield, Grand Haven Township, and 214 Washington, Grand Haven City, Boar Shoes and Accessories. I am the co-owner of Boar Shoes. I bought it, my part of it, from Roger a few years ago, and I've worked downtown. I started working for Roger over 26 years ago. This is a great day to be able to stand here in front of you and say, hallelujah. I have two things on my bucket list before I want to retire. A hotel in downtown Grand Haven and a new farmer's market, being a retired blueberry farmer. I had the pleasure of working with Dana back in 2017, 2018, when Pete and Tom came to the city of Grand Haven and tried to work out putting a hotel in here back then. What really killed it back then, of course, was parking. It's always parking, right? You guys know that no matter what we do. I remember the 300 Washington project. I remember when I was the DDA chair at that time. I've been the DDA chair, I've been the chamber chair. I'm still on the chamber foundation board, community foundation board. It's always parking and it's always the charm. But what I see happening is 300 Washington, when I stood in front of the planning commission helping to fight for that, it becomes part of the community. We don't have a parking problem with that, like everybody was terrified that we would have. We're not gonna have a parking problem with this. And you know, as a merchant, that would be wonderful if we had a parking problem. Because when I walk down the street and I talk to my fellow merchants, we would love to have a parking problem a whole lot more than a couple weeks out of the year. The Marriott Group comes to a community to enhance a community, not destroy a community. I also have the privilege of being a beneficiary of that in the downtown Holland store. Downtown Holland is a great downtown, but you know what came after the Marriott came? What came after the Marriott came was other quality restaurants, other quality retailers who are fighting to come into town. Think about it, folks. Wouldn't it be great to have some more quality restaurants and retailers in downtown Grand Haven to be known for that? We can do this. This is an exciting time for you guys to sit on city council. It's an exciting time for me to be a merchant and welcome the residents. I've also had the opportunity to talk to some of our manufacturers. Remember, we do have a global manufacturer here. Had an opportunity, I was in a meeting with him the other day and I just said, before I go up at city council and say something, I want to make sure that I'm not fabricating. Said, where do you bring your people? Where do you put them when they come for conferences, when they come for work here at your Grand Haven global office? And his response was, Muskegon, Spring Lake, or Holland. Sharon, I would love to be able to put them in downtown Grand Haven, the heart of this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, we also have someone on hold for social media.
Okay, why don't you put that person on?
They are on hold, I'm just making you
No, I mean, before we have our
Oh,
next
put them
speaker.
on, I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah, let them speak and then we'll have, continue here.
Okay, I've unmuted them, so you can, you're on the line, you can speak to the public hearing.
Please identify yourself.
Might be a delay.
Still.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. My name is Catherine Hoffmeyer. I am deeply concerned that Mayor Manetza has dismissed legitimate environmental concerns by saying they'll be accounted for in a future wetland exchange. That's not a guarantee. It's a vague assurance that bypasses science, community input, and accountability. I live less than a mile from the proposed wetland area on the same elevation as the dike. This isn't abstract to me. I've spotted endangered spotted turtles in my own backyard. These animals depend on connected wetland habitats. If we disrupt that system, we don't lose land, we risk violating environmental protections and wiping out vulnerable species. Wetlands provide flood protection, water filtration, and habitat stability. They take decades to develop. An exchange doesn't guarantee ecological equivalency. And if the replacement site fails, the city, not the developer, will be left with the consequences. We can't afford to treat wetlands like bargaining chips. This isn't just a land deal. It's a decision about public safety, environmental responsibility, and the integrity of our leadership. We must prioritize what's best for the people and the ecosystem we live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we are in a public hearing about the hotel proposal, not the dike property. Okay. All right. Well, that one probably should have waited till the end of the meeting. All right. I'm sorry about that. Come on up.
That's fine. My name is Judy Boyle. I am a very proud owner of a historical building in downtown Grand Haven. Years ago, I heard a lot about parking. And my question was, why do we go through a lot of the work that we do with the DDA, who, Bob, you know I've been on the DDA, the downtown district. Why do we go through a lot of work to bring people in, and then we have so many problems when we get an opportunity like this? I, along with some of the other people that put a lot of love into the buildings downtown, I am so excited when I heard that we're gonna have something like this join our downtown. Again, my plans are to live downtown. I own a place downtown that I will live in retirement, and I come from Grand Rapids as well. And I did come here for the same thing as a lot of other people. I came here because I love this town. I love the future of the town. But I will tell you that I had the opportunity to go to some of the other towns and look at Holland. And I stayed at the hotel in Holland. It was fabulous. It was fabulous to bring people in to shop, to eat here, to have coffee, to have ice cream, to enjoy our town. I do know the problem people have with Coast Guard. We do have, you know, any other issues. I've also lived in Chicago and San Francisco and Florida. We really don't have parking problems. We have a smaller area. I'll guarantee you when these people come for Grand Haven, they come and they find places, but they're gonna shop. And we're gonna keep our stores open, and that will keep the restaurants open, that will keep the ice cream places and the coffee places. I know that things that come in town are change, but it is such a treat to have somebody like this hotel to be in the middle of a city that I can say is going to be a vibrant city. We really, we could use this project. Thank you. And thank you, Sharon, for everything you do.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Gerard. I live at 1035 Washington here in town, and I have a store, the Surf Shop, in the first block of 16 Washington. I am in favor of this hotel coming. I do think if you want to do one-to-one as far as hotel rooms and that kind of stuff, I did a property search too, and sometimes I don't necessarily agree with some of what Mr. Hagan says, but they do have other property that they own that they could add parking spots that you can see from this proposed site. Whether they want to do that or not, that's fine. My big thing is I hear a lot that people stay in other communities if they're at a conference or that type of thing, but they always wanna come to Grand Haven. Why not have them here and then they can go wherever their conference is and they can come back to Grand Haven, which is where they want to stay. We really do need more of this. It will help all year long. And I'm very much for it. I didn't realize part of the family that was there and that was doing this project, that you must have done stuff in West Michigan for years and years and years. So they know about this community. And so they're thoughtful in their proposal. Change is always a hard thing, but this shouldn't be another parking issue. We have a walking issue in this community. If I wanna come to Grand Haven, I'm gonna come to Grand Haven. I'm not gonna stop because I might have to go a couple blocks for parking. Just like when I wanna go to a Cubs game or a Tigers game, I know that I might have to walk a little bit. I don't care. It's the destination I want. So let's get these people here. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to address council?
Mr. Mayor, may I say a couple more words? I know I already spoke once.
Why don't you wait until nobody wants to come to the podium?
Sure.
You can be last. Who else would like to address council? I guess it's your turn.
Yes, sir. A couple of notes that came to me after this. I'm not a public speaker, so a gentleman from Spring Lake sent me an article about the hotel that formerly occupied that intersection about 100 years ago. It was a 5-story hotel, so that was to me pretty ironic. I'm not with BDR. They are a partner of ours in the project, so I cannot speak to their property that they have where the drive-through is currently located. I have heard them say that they have short-term plans to do something with a lot greater value than a parking lot there and to improve that, but that is about all. That's hearsay from what I've overheard. That's all I know about that. From an economic impact study, guests of this hotel will spend approximately $18 million a year in our community between our restaurants, our shops, our gas stations. And that's an impact that is felt by everybody forever. When we built the Hampton Inn in Manistee, I would say a third of the stores downtown were empty and blighted. By the time we actually got to open, we had created so much excitement in town that they were looking for 9 storefronts to accommodate people looking to expand in Manistee. And so that was a proud moment for us, is that we weren't the reason, but we were part of the story and part of the excitement. There's a company out there called Pacer AI, and they track your cell phone data. And they're not listening to Apple. They're listening to when you tell that app you accept the terms and conditions. That app is selling your data to them. And right now, visitors of downtown Grand Haven, the #1 hotel choice is the Courtyard Marriott in Holland. The #2 choice is the Courtyard Marriott downtown Grand Rapids. And the #3 choice is the JW Marriott. And so that was part of our decision. We work regularly with Hilton, Marriott, and IHG, our 3 kind of franchise partners of choice. That was part of our intention when we originally started talking with Marriott around this, is let's keep the Marriott guests that are coming to Grand Haven in Grand Haven, as well as I know the Bacalls who are working outside of town on the Hampton Inn project. I know them well. We're friendly competition across the state. And their project serves a completely different need. They're more of a transient room guest, which is about an average of about 1.8, 1.9 nights per guest or per room. Where an extended stay product like a Residence Inn will be about a 4 to 5 night average length of stay. So these guests will be here longer and have more time to wander around and explore our community. They will go and work during the day. They will come back and they blend in and out, but they will be here to spend money and stay in our community. I've heard the comments about the bank and the pillars and stuff, they are really beat up and there is a lot of alterations to that exterior from the original of what it is. But we can talk to our architect and see if that's feasible. I have no idea how you incorporate them or move them or whatever. That's something that we're willing to investigate though and see if there's any ability to incorporate that somehow in the facade, maybe on that end of the building or something of that sort. No promises, but I will give it my fair shake. Why residence in over courtyard? I think, I kind of spoke to that just a second ago, of the transient nature of the guest at a courtyard is gonna be more of your short-term stays. You're probably less than 2 nights on average versus a courtyard, which is more of a 4 to 5 night average length of stay. Some of our guests though include people that are displaced from fires. So if your house was to unfortunately burn down, it's a place of refuge for a month while you figure out what is your next step. Where are you gonna go in the meantime while you rebuild? So there's a lot more that the brand offers than just a bed for the night. It's more of a place to call home temporarily. The other thing that was attractive to us is, again, in our passion and our desire to support the restaurants and shops downtown, is Residence Inn does not have a bar component, nor do they have a restaurant component. So that'll also help to encourage our guests to leave the hotel and not stay with us and explore or support our restaurants. Because yes, Anna's House is on a wait all summer long, but in the winter, or in all the coffee shops between us and the inn down there, there's a lot of opportunity to sneak in the other 10 months of the year and grab a quick coffee and hang out and explore the town. So that's a little bit about, or some of the notes that I took away as I was sitting there thinking and reflecting on our time together this evening. So any other questions for us?
Well, we'll hold that thought.
Okay.
We haven't closed the public hearing yet.
Yes,
So we're still listening. All right, so thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else like to address council at this point? If not, then we're gonna close the public hearing. Now the conversation becomes one between council members and whatever resource they choose to draw on. So, you are correct. Okay. Councilman Lowe corrects me on one point of order here. At this point, we would need a motion to consider a resolution. We're able to read this.
Consideration by City Council of a resolution to approve an introductory resolution to approve the zoning change request from CB, Central Business District, to PD, Plan Development District, and associated preliminary development plan for a hotel at 233 Washington Avenue, parcel number 70-03-20-432-017.
All right, I need a motion.
So moved. Or second.
Okay. Motion by Lowe, second by Fritz. So now we can begin discussing. Thank you for correcting me. And since you spoke up, you go first.
Okay, sure. I've had a lot of thoughts on this, both excitement and maybe, some concern after hearing from some of our residents. But as you look back in history, and I can really look to my mentor in history, Wally Ewing, sitting in the front row, we have had hotels going back way, to the beginning of Grand Haven. In fact, one of the things that really made our town was the Grand Cutler House Hotel, which is across the street from your property. It was 5 stories originally before fire of 1889 or somewhere around that, but it was built prior to that, and it was like it was a luxurious hotel. People came from everywhere. It was a magnet, and it helped significantly our little community grow. We also had other small hotels. I think the Kirby was the Gildner Hotel. There were smaller, I guess you would call more boutique type hotels, but that was the Grand Hotel. And that's, one of the things that I look at it, you know, a hotel in a downtown like ours, it fuels investments. And that's what you're hearing. It's good for our merchants. It's good for all of us as citizens because we want good restaurants, we want good stores, we want that, you know, those things. But a hotel in the downtown has been missing for some time here in Grand Haven, way too long. And I can't think of anything better than, and I could understand why in the past it hasn't, maybe other sites were not as appealing to, you know, to everyone involved. But I think this is a good site and I think this is a good plan. Some of you have written us saying you'd like to see a boutique hotel. You would have preferred to see a boutique hotel, small boutique. I would too, but in some sense that still doesn't meet our needs as a community. We need a large enough hotel and they need a large enough hotel to make the economics work for building a hotel like that. And that's why when I look at all of this together, I am supportive of this. I think this is what our community needs. I think what's been put together is very attractive. I think it fits into our community, and I'm supportive of this. I would just say in terms of the history that I do anything that we can do as a community to help and look at the facade of that old bank building, either to move it or for it to be incorporated in the design. I don't know if that's feasible, but I know there's members of the community that are interested in trying to do something to save that. So I just put that out there for both the developer and also for our community to maybe see if we can't come together to see if that we can make that feasible for some. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, after listening to your presentation and reading everything that Brian has supplied to us, I think this is a great idea. I think Laura hit the nail on the head. I say it all the time, we don't have a parking problem, we have a walking problem in this town. There's plenty of parking in this town, I believe. Roger said the same thing, he's never been able, he's always been able to find a parking space. As somebody who's lived in this town for 26 years. In downtown. I'm glad Sharon brought up our corporate neighbors. That's important. Because when they bring in their executives spend a lot of money. Let's be honest. I had, you know, prior employment, I did a lot of traveling and we went to a lot of downtown hotels and we did go have a good time some nights. So I think it's really, I really think this is something that Grand Haven really needs. I think it will be tremendous for the downtown. I fully support this, and you know, I think that Mr. Hagan said barrel ahead. I think we should barrel ahead on this one. Thanks.
Well, I get to say something.
Mike, it's your turn.
It's like history be repeating itself again. As we heard earlier, you know, it was a 5-story hotel on the same site at one time. It's kind of like going in full circle again. We're coming back to where we were many years ago. I remember my family's been here probably 5 generations, so I can tell you at one time, we used to have ships sitting out there, because this was an entry point. They would be waiting to get into Grand Haven and waiting to get out too, because they couldn't kill him out, they couldn't get him hard enough. By putting in a nice hotel down there, it gives us an opportunity because we have a harbor here. It's a safe harbor. We can actually get some cruise ships maybe to come here. That's my dream would be to have boats coming back in again and staying. Right now, we had a cruise ship come here. Well, where did they go? They went to Saugatuck. They hopped on a bus and went to Saugatuck. If we had some place for them to come here and spend a few days, it'd be a great opportunity to make our downtown shine and actually make and see Grand Haven as what it really is. It's a great harbor. We have a grand harbor, I tell you, it's fantastic. I think it's a great opportunity for us to move forward. If we could save those pillars, then that would be nice, but I've been down there and I've seen, you're absolutely correct. They're chipped, they're broke, they're deteriorating, they've been they've been abused for many years, they've not been maintained. It's the whole thing is you have to maintain those things. If you don't, and it's been neglected for quite a few years. I only live a few blocks from downtown. I'm down there every night. And I think parking, you're actually correct. If you don't mind walking, I mean, I walk all the time. It makes me feel healthy, it makes me feel good. And I don't mind walking. If I was brought up about Detroit Tigers, of course, I'm a Tiger fan. Where do I park? I park like 6 blocks away because I can get a halfway decent parking. I can get out of there a lot quicker if I just walk. We can do the same thing here. In the future, you're not gonna have to have a lot of parking. We're gonna have these anonymous cars and stuff. They're just gonna be coming and going, it's electric, whatever. And they're gonna be people that are gonna be totally different. Why build more parking lots? Why do all this? Because I'm a car guy. I got a lot of cars. I'm telling you right now, I'm a polluter. But I tell you what, it's gonna come to a future where there's gonna be a whole lot of different things. You see now, you're not gonna have as many vehicles because people are gonna have their cars. They can park them anywhere they want. They'll be able to put on a phone, have it come to them. It's gonna be so much nicer. I'm all for this hotel. I think it's gonna be a great addition for our downtown and it's gonna help our merchants. And they need it, I tell you, so I welcome it. I talked to a fellow old city manager at Holland. He says, yeah, they spent tons of money to build this parking ramp, thinking that would attract people to come in because they have parking for them. Well, it wasn't anywhere near. He says, when they put the Marriott in there, he says, it changed the whole game. He says, the parking lot was empty for 10 years before he got there. It was basically just sitting there empty. And when the Marriott came in, it actually opened up the doors and it made the town a little bit more brighter. I'm thinking this is gonna be a great addition for us, so thank you very much for the presentation and that, and I'm all for it.
Did you have more?
Well, just one other little piece of history, and Wally, I'm gonna defer to you because I may have this wrong, but this property also was Sheldon's Magnetic Miracle Springs Spa and Resort back before the turn of the century, and there was some natural or very special springs water that was in there. And did I read in something that you had that in the basement of one of those buildings, there was at one time?
May I speak?
Yes, please, or is that okay, Your Honor, just?
Go ahead, Wally, you can answer
Just-
this specific question.
Sorry, it was just a historic thing that I thought was
Sheldon's
important.
Magnetic Mineral Springs, it opened up in 1872. It was one of 3 mineral springs there at Fruitport, Spring Lake, and then Grand Haven. And from what I've heard, I haven't seen it myself, is that the artesian well that provided those minerals, waters, is in the basement of what was the Fifth Third Bank. So they're still there and still being tapped if anyone's interested in doing that. And that hotel wasn't in business until about 1900. And then it was replaced in 1905 by the Federal Building, also known as the Post Office.
Thank you, Wally.
No, that was it.
It's all right.
I just thought you should know you might have some miracle magnetic springs under,
We
you
might have
know,
some magic water. in
little
the
bonus
ground.
there.
They cured everything.
Or so they said. That era was famous for this sort of stuff. I guess for my part, I would say that we've been waiting a long time in this community for a viable hotel project to be proposed for downtown. We've had a genuine need for it. The idea of small boutique hotels, they're great, they don't really have the economy of scale to work at the kind of scale we need for our downtown. And it's been likened to things like, well, we should have a hardware store instead of a Home Depot, or a little corner grocery instead of a Meijer. But we used to have those things and they aren't here anymore because they don't fit the modern economy, they don't fit the way people do business anymore. The, you know, small scale, boutique, all those sorts of things probably don't really work in today's economy, and we want a project which we are confident will succeed. Last thing we want to do is force a development to be a particular type of development that we happen to like that isn't going to be economically viable. So I think that would be one litmus test we'd have, is that whatever we approve needs to be designed in such a way by people with the experience to do it, that's gonna be successful and it's gonna bring benefit to the community. And I think that when somebody proposes to come in and spend $30 million on a site downtown, they've probably done their homework and have a pretty good idea what it takes to be successful. Will it benefit downtown? Will it benefit the community? Well, yes, we've heard a number of examples of how it would benefit our local merchants, how it would benefit our local manufacturers. It's just a kind of a hole in our local economy we need to fill. We looked at other proposals for around downtown. This is a pretty good site for it. It really is. It's not right on the waterfront, but it's within easy walking distance of the waterfront. It won't dominate the appearance of our community at the water line or for where most tourists go, but there'll be a resource farther in. Going back to the 1870 building that was there, the original Cutler House, it was a 5-story building when it was built. We were in a community which was growing and which was excited about its future and which was trying to become a bigger, more intense community and trying to become more than it was at the time. And those forward-looking people were excited about a 5-story hotel being downtown. And at that time, it was kind of on the edge of downtown, but it was one of those things that it's just a different mindset. That was a time when people were excited about the future of the community instead of looking backward and saying, all we care about is what we grew up with or what we're accustomed to. So I think this is a really good proposal for our downtown. It may not be a perfect proposal, but it's really good for what we have to work with and what our needs are. And so I'll be supporting this. I do have some relatively specific questions, maybe for Brian or for whoever will listen.
Glad to see you.
The parking issue, it keeps coming up that obviously the 39 space is short of what the code requires and what makes sense. Because 1 space per room does make sense. You're not gonna come in here with less, you might come in here with more, and then that's kind of your problem, but 1 space per unit, per room does make sense. It's our own zoning requirement, it ought to be accounted for in some manner. The planning commission's motion recommended that they either have shared parking agreements or some other on-site discounted way of dealing with it, which would allow, in some cases, they allow you to count on-street parking. Personally, I think the on-street parking makes 0 sense in this case. I don't see how on-street parking, because it can't be reserved for their guests. It would be first come, first served. We would have to modify our code of ordinances to allow overnight parking on 3rd Street or on Washington, because right now it's prohibited not in zoning, but in our code of ordinances. So that's another complication, but personally, I think that counting on-street parking doesn't make sense. Counting shared parking arrangements or the possibility of permit parking in a city lot to some degree that we would have to decide is appropriate does make sense. So I guess I'm kind of discouraging you and the planning commission from saying on-street parking is a good answer to this. And so that's a point I wanted to make, and I think that you could deal with this through shared parking agreements. Another piece that's in the ordinance, which in zoning puts a number of feet on the distance that you can go to the nearest shared parking arrangement parking lot. I believe it's 400 feet, it's either 400 or 500 feet.
400.
400, okay. I personally don't care how far it is to a shared parking lot, because for one thing, they would only use it when they're in a situation where they are full. There are more than 89 spaces full. And if we had shared parking arrangements to account for the parking that was farther away, then it might be incumbent upon the operators of the hotel to arrange valet service or a shuttle or skateboard or something, but help their people get from where they have to park to their building, just to account for the spaces that they would need and not to overburden our streets or any other lots. So I think that might be something we would also have to add to our approval of the zoning change, which we get our second reading 2 weeks from now, that perhaps we want to include in this plan development rules, striking a minimum or maximum distance to a shared parking lot. That's something we can do, because we can change the rules however we please when it's a plan development. So I think that that's something to think about between now and 2 weeks from now, as to how you're going to deal with this in terms of shared parking arrangements and whether or not we really care how far away they are. I understand the Marriott people say they don't want them that far away because they want this line of sight and convenience and all that. We still have to deal with the fact that we have parking to deal with, we have to account for it somehow. Whether those spaces ever actually got used is not really the point. The point is you have to count them somewhere so they're available. Kind of like buying capacity for an electrical system, just have to be prepared for those times. So that's one thing on the parking. It would be up to city council to determine whether or not parking permits would be issued for overnight parking for a downtown area. I believe we typically have to weigh in on that as saying when there's a new use or a request for additional parking permits for overnight parking in downtown lots would come back to us. So we would have a final say on that, and we really ought to have that thought about before there's a commitment to how we're gonna proceed with parking as to whether or not we want to say we're gonna count X number of spaces as permitted parking for overnight stays for a hotel. There again, I don't see a problem with us having some of those permits. We also have other competing uses for those same lots, so something else to think about between now and 2 weeks from now. I think I'll ask you these same questions when that comes up next time. One thing that, let's see. One thing that's on page 122 of our packet, it was also in the planning commission packet, which I know you don't have in front of you. There's a illustration of something called center brick or something, however it's pronounced, which appears to be a product which looks like brick, but is actually some kind of a printed panel, which would be an exterior cladding. Is that being proposed for this structure?
That's my understanding.
Or is it actually going to be brick?
Looks like it's gonna be brick facing material.
Well, this is not brick facing material, this is an acrylic finish on some panel. So it's something that looks like brick, so I would encourage them to use a brick or a face brick or something which is actually made out of brick instead of whatever this product is. This will be something planning commission deals with, we aren't dealing with this. We're dealing with the zoning piece, I'm just expressing my opinions because I can. There's that, there's the, I appreciate that they're keeping Sherwood Forest open as a pocket park. Yeah, I think that's a great inclusion they've made. The facade of the old state bank. I know that the historic commission is meeting Wednesday of this week to further discuss that. They're a little behind the 8 ball in this discussion because here we are discussing the zoning. Planning commission has already passed it along to us and now they're talking about what can be done with that. I am skeptical that it can be incorporated into their new building. If they can find a way to do it, if they're willing to look at that, that's great. From the face of the curb in front of the bases of those columns back to the wall of the building is about 6 feet. I don't think they want to push their building back that far from the property line in order to keep those. But, you know, I suppose there's creative ways to do that. I guess another choice would be to dismantle it, possibly resurrect it somewhere else, maybe as a gateway feature for some property, maybe slide it west 50 feet, put it in front of Sherwood Forest. I don't know, there's probably things you could dream up to do with that. I guess, I don't know how much effort that's really worth doing, but something that you can talk to the applicants about is to, if they can't save this or incorporate it in their building, what can be done with those elements? See if there's any value there to dismantling them, setting them aside. Maybe we can get a community thing going where interested people would try to find a place to put them so that they would not be forgotten. Certainly, once they're moved off this location, they would have no more historic significance for the site. So I guess we have to ask ourselves how hard we want to try to save those elements. But it's something that before the wrecking ball comes, you could have the conversation and instead of just knocking them down, maybe you can take them apart. Those are things which I know the Historic Commission will be talking about in a couple of days. And this will come back to us in a couple of weeks, but again, we're dealing with the zoning. But I also know that the preliminary development plan is integral to the zoning change. And that those things which are in the preliminary development plan are the things we would be approving along with zoning. So I want to make sure that whatever we're thinking of now that might need some adjustment or such has been thought about before our final vote. I don't want to go through this process a second time. Sometimes when you add an element later, it's like we start over. And that's a cumbersome process. So I think those are my really specific questions on this. I appreciate the input from all the members of the public, those who are opposed and those who are in favor. I appreciate everybody's feeling on this. It is a major change. It will take some getting used to, but people have been resilient enough in this community to absorb change and to understand you can't just always be a museum of yourself. You can't just be a static representation of what you were 100 years ago. And so it's vital to this community, it's vital for the next people who come along, whether there are children coming back here or living here, or visitors coming here to become residents here. We have to make this as vital and exciting a place as we can, a place where people want to be. So, not long rambling, but that's what I think. In the meantime, I am supportive of this.
Can I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
On the developers? Are you gonna offer valet parking?
Valet parking is a really large cost that we haven't figured into the budget, but it is something that, you know, we would have to consider if it was, I do not have Marriott's requirement, but it's a line of sight in a distance number, I think it's less, I think it's like 300 feet from the building, but.
Yeah, but if we waive that, as the mayor said, if we waive the 400 feet, I mean, you go to a hotel, any place, and I drop my car off, I don't know where the damn thing goes.
Right, that is fair.
Right?
That
I
is
don't know
fair.
where it goes.
Right.
I just know that when I pick up the phone and call the concierge,
It's there in
it
10
takes you in
minutes.
10 minutes. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm just something to think about.
Yeah,
You know, you can go back to the guys that are gonna do the other hotel. They got a lot of parking down there.
Exactly, and we take a lot of pride in our guest surveys. Our Hampton Inn in Manistee is in the top 30 of 2,800 hotels in the nation. Our Embassy Suites that my family has downtown Grand Rapids won the Connie Award, which is the #1 award given out by Hilton this year. Our Courtyard Marriott in Holland's been in the top 5 courtyards of over 1,200 worldwide since the date opened. So we take a lot of pride in our product and our service. And parking can be a guest satisfier or dissatisfier. So no matter what the arrangement is that's approved here, if our guests aren't in love with it, we're gonna have to figure out a solution that they will be in love with because their satisfaction is paramount to us. We do not want to take it on the chin because of something that's controllable. So we'll figure that out, whatever that answer is.
Just something to think about. I mean, I'm not saying you gotta valet 365.
No.
You know.
Correct. There might be some days.
Just in some days that you just know that Coast Guard and so forth, you know it's just that hotel's gonna fill up. Say, okay, we'll valet it so that we can take 39 parking spaces, which I don't think makes a big difference.
And we've had a lot of, we've talked to everybody around us and there's a lot of people that already have a few side agreements and a few commitments. And so it's been, unfortunately, not a lot of the answers that we were hoping for, but you know, I'm not good at giving up on things either, so, you know.
I just don't want this hotel to die because of parking. Let's put it that way.
We wouldn't let that happen.
That's, I think that would be.
The bank's gonna take my personal guarantee and my wife won't let that happen.
And you know, the parking is really an issue for summer months. The rest of the time, 89 spaces will be plenty. Okay.
Tonight, there's plenty of room. I was down there.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Anything else you'd like to hear before we vote? No. Anyone? All right, well, we have a motion on the floor to approve. Please call the roll.
Lowe,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vanessa.
Yes. All right, so this will come back to us presumably in 2 weeks for a second reading of this zoning ordinance amendment. And that brings us to our new business. Please read the first item.
Item A,
So far, so good.
consideration by City Council of a resolution to approve HDR Task Order 019, Task 006, in the not to exceed amount of $414,608 for fiscal year 2025/2026 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. The Board of Light and Power recommends approval and the administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Fritz, second by Lowell. Is this a Derek question?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Council, Derek Gaines, PM Director for the city. This task order here, we're switching in this next fiscal year that starts July 1st to a fiscal year approach to our costs. We've just kind of been adding on change orders to the original ones that we started in 2022. So we're gonna bring forth to you something every June for the next year. Your next item is gonna be the same thing. This happens to be the Board of Light and Power's cost to do the CCR monitoring. There's some additional tasks in this that happen every 2 and 3 years as we go through the remediation. But this is for continued groundwater monitoring for coal combustor residual constituents. Board of Light and Power approved it at its May meeting.
Questions?
Nope. Good by me.
Sounds good.
Is this a BOP cost or a shared cost?
This is just a BOP cost, so it's just a pass through.
Call the roll.
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vanessa.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item B, consideration by City Council of a resolution to approve HDR Task Order 020, Task 14, in the not to exceed amount of $165,692 for fiscal year 2025/2026 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Fritz, second by McLaughlin. This is another Derek question.
This is another, yes, Your Honor. So this actually is task order 14 is actually our general coordination meeting communications, our community advisory group website and engagement support for HDR to do our work. It seems like a lot of money for a fiscal year, 165. I asked HDR to give me a not to exceed price of what they think that we would not exceed in the fiscal year 25-26. In comparison, last year, those 4 tasks, we spent a total of $44,000. So this is ramping up because we're getting close to doing some remediation proposals and stuff. You're gonna see 2 more task orders come through in the next few months for some of that additional work as well that's required for the CCR side and the PFAS side. We're working on the last data gap investigation plan. We got just a little more data we gotta sew in before we can actually get down to business and figure out what we have to do with the site. And so we're getting close. In the next 9 months, I anticipate we'll start having some solid discussions with staff and then of course bring it to you and the public. So yeah, it's just in comparison, last year's was pretty small. We were just basically data, gathering some information, had some meetings. Your next update will come probably in July or early August. We'll figure out which one is best around Coast Guard. We don't want to do it during then, but the community advisory group is set to have an update here in early July. So more information will come about the whole process and where we're at and where we're going. But this just sets us up for the next fiscal year.
Okay. Questions?
Wow. It's a lot of money.
It is.
And you recommending this? Young lady.
Yes. Yeah, I think as Derek mentioned, we're growing increasingly closer to the point which public engagement will hit a peak once again. And again, not to exceed, so it could be quite lower depending on how things play out, but just as that added layer of protection. And Emily can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know we're still working through some of our outside funding for the Harbor Island project, and we're remaining hopeful we'll continue to have success with our state and federal legislators to assist us in these costs. But I do think the engagement with the advisory group and the town halls and the website, even just hosting all of those documents in one place for public transparency is important.
Where does this fall with our overall budget?
Falls, well, we have 1.1 million budgeted, this is only,
We got 1.1 million left?
no, 1.1 million in our current capital plan that was approved.
Budgeted for that fiscal.
Budgeted for all of this, so with these two task orders, we're about halfway. And of course, half of that gets reimbursed to us. My understanding that our current funding is right around $2 million left, 2.2 million to be spent that we have available for spending.
We're on a long road, and it's gonna be a costly road.
It was $165,000 for. Okay.
All right, Mike, anything?
No.
Okay. All right, well, then I think we're gonna bite the bullet and vote on this. Okay, would you please call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. That concludes our new business for this evening and brings us to report by city council. Who would like to go first? Nothing?
Oh, I'm good.
All right, how's Tiger doing?
Oh, God, can we, why don't we just skip over that, let's get, we can end this meeting.
All I know is I think they're doing a little bit better than Boston.
They are. That's fine.
That's okay.
That's okay.
But,
Long season.
It's a long season and they're looking good. And their farm system is looking even better. Go to the Whitecaps. So, go Tigers. That's it.
All right, I just wanted
It was
to,
worth you talking.
thank the Memorial Day Association for really beautiful service down at the Escanaba Park for the unveiling of the bricks. It was all very nicely done and really says a lot about the character of this community. And on that note, I'll turn it over to Ashley.
And I will turn it over to Dana.
Okay, well, I said report by city manager, so that's why I went through you.
Sure. Ashley thought it might be a good idea for a quick update on a few of the pending development projects that staff has been working on behind the scenes. Just give you all and the public a quick update. So the first is the Chinook Pier building. We do continue to meet every other week virtually with Copper Rock and their representatives. We talk a lot about future plans while behind the scenes their attorney continues to work on a draft development agreement. We are closing very closely in on that development agreement. We talked last week and the attorney was making final edits and we're hopeful that we receive that here very imminently this week. So as soon as we get that in, we'll take a peek at it and have Ron look at it and get it over to you all.
It's been 8 months.
Yes.
It's just a development agreement, my God.
Yep.
I mean, he's getting paid by the hour, obviously.
Right. Yep, it's currently been in their hands. Our attorney provided an initial draft to start from, and they've been working on that on and off since they've had that in hand at the start of the year. The jewelry building is the second update at 224 Washington. I know there's been a lot of interest in this particular building given that it's been vacant for some time. We did just recently, this past week, receive some preliminary incentive request information as they ramp up to start a project yet this year. That's their stated desire to get going on a project. So we do have the initial request and we'll be forwarding it to our financial reviewer so that they can provide us with a recommendation around their incentive request. So we're excited and hopeful that we'll see a project happen yet on that site this year. The third update is related to the diesel plant. We just wanted to share that we did see a shift in new addition to the ownership group. The LLC remains the same as the one that we worked with and sold the building to. However, they've added additional partners into that LLC. They are working diligently on bringing forward a new concept, or an updated concept, not a new concept, but updated to the actual existing facility. They are committed still to keeping the existing diesel plant building and will, according to the most recent update, be some sort of hospitality restaurant use, as well as some residential embedded within that building. So it looks like it will be multiple phases. We're anticipating initial phase in the diesel plant building itself, followed by some external housing as a phase 2. They will tentatively be bringing a conceptual plan to staff at the end of this month to bring forward for a preliminary discussion with the Planning Commission before it's put on their agenda for a formal review. So we're expecting to see quite a bit of activity as far as the project concept itself and discussion at Planning Commission this summer. So those are quick updates for you.
All right, that's it.
That is all.
Okay.
Can you just remind the Chinook Pier developers that this isn't the diesel plant?
Yes.
Noted.
All right, well, that brings us to our second call to the audience. At this time, members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address and will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration, will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to call in may dial 616-935-3203. Who would like to address council? No, I think most people have gone home, so I guess we will close the call to the audience and we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you everyone for coming.